everybody, so this week we're going to be making nougat, or nougat if you're American. We're going to aim for a cherry and almond flavour one. Now every time I've made this before it tends to go a little bit hard, so I'm going to try a slightly different approach for this recipe. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully it will be as delicious as I think it's going to be, and we'll have some fun while we're doing it. For this recipe we're going to need 400 grams of caster sugar. We're going to need 200 grams of glace cherries, 2 large egg whites, 100 ml of honey, about 100 grams of toasted flaked almonds. You can buy whole almonds for this, but this just makes things a lot easier. And you can either use the seeds scraped from one vanilla pod, or I'm going to use vanilla bean paste because it's a lot cheaper and it doesn't make any difference to the recipe. You also need for nougat some rice sheets. These are really important because it's quite a sticky substance. These are edible. You can buy them from Amazon quite easily and they're quite cheap, and you get loads in a pack. But if you just put the nougat into like cling film or baking paper, it'll just stick to it and you won't be able to peel it off, so you'll end up eating that paper instead. So I highly recommend this if this is a sweet you're going to try and make. I almost forgot, you need 210 mils of liquid glucose as well. Equipment: the large deep heavy pan, sugar thermometer, a measuring jug and weighing scales, spatula and silicone pastry brush, a tin for you to line with the rice paper for afterwards, and I'm going to be using a mixer to mix up my eggs and add the mixture in. You can use a hand whisker, but it's easier with 2 people if you have that, because you need to keep whisking while you're pouring the sugar solution in. So because this is quite a technical process, I've done a lot of prep beforehand. So I've poured in my 400 grams of sugar into the pan. I've split my egg whites out. I've measured out 210 mils of glucose syrup and 100 mils of honey into my measuring jug. I've roughly chopped my cherries in preparation, and I've got the 100 toasted flakes because that just makes life easier, and I can give it a squeeze of vanilla bean paste when it's needed. It's important to do all this first simply because we're going to be doing this in a 2-process way today. So we're going to whisk up the whites, we're going to heat the sugar, the glucose and the honey together with 2 tablespoons full of water until they reach around 125 degrees C, and then we're going to pour half of that mixture into the whisked eggs and keep it whisking. We're then going to return it to the heat to bring it to 157 degrees C. So there's a 2-part process. So as it is quite complicated, so that's why I'm going to try and repeat that over and over as I do the video this time. As we've done many times before, we're going to melt the sugar, the glucose and the honey on a low heat until the sugar dissolves. Then we're going to bring it to the boil until we get to 127 degrees. While that's slowly dissolving, I'm going to whisk up these egg whites till we get some white soft peaks. So this is what you're going to be looking for. Just FYI, if you are vegan, you can achieve the same results just by using bean juice, you know, from chickpea cans or other egg substitutes. You can use that just as well, and it froths up just like this. Once all the sugar is melted, begin to bring it to the boil again, and this time we're going to 127 degrees. As I've shown you before, to stop your sweet being grainy, dab some of your silicone brush into some cold water, and then you want to go around the edges of the pan to melt whatever remaining sugar hasn't quite dissolved, so that as the sugar mixture rises it doesn't get that graininess on the edge. Once the mixture reaches 127 degrees, I'm going to start the mixer again, and then I'm going to pour half of it into the eggs in a thin stream, and then return the rest of the mixture to the heat, but carry on whisking the mixture so that it doesn't stiffen while you're waiting for it to heat up to the 150 to the 157 degrees that we're aiming for. So now we've reached 125 degrees. I'm going to pour half the mixture into the whisked eggs while it's spinning. And I'm going to leave the whisk to whisk that all in so it cooks those eggs. Turn up the heat so that I go to 150 degrees, and that's when I'm going to add the rest into the mixture and leave it whisking for about 10 minutes to thicken. You're aiming for this caramelly colour, as you can see. I'm now going to mix that into the nugget, which is getting a really creamy texture to it now, and then I'm going to leave that for a further 10 minutes. You can see how it froths up and we're getting that creamy look, and I'm going to let that just move for about 10 minutes before I turn and fold in the flavourings. As you can see, it's starting to thicken up. We're about 8 minutes in. I'm just going to give it another couple of minutes. I'm going to fold in the cherries and the almonds, and I'm going to pour it into this tin here, and then you need to leave it overnight, preferably, because it'll just set better, and then hopefully tomorrow we'll be able to break it apart and have some really tasty nougat. Yes, tasty nougat. And there we have it. Homemade nougat, freshly prepared. We're just going to leave it overnight to set, but you pretty much can't do anything with it right now because it solidifies quite quickly, as you can see, and hopefully I'll be able to give you the finished product tomorrow. There you have it, completed cherry and almond nougat. I would recommend when you're cutting it up to heat your knife under a hot tap. Just lightly dry it off before you cut. It makes it a lot easier to get these nice smooth lines across the edge. It is exceptionally sticky, as you can see, so be careful what you put it next to. But I am quite pleased with the end result. So there you have it. That's how you make nougat from scratch. Of all the sweet making recipes that we've done, this one I think is one of the most technically difficult. So if you are new to sweet making, I wouldn't make this the first one that you try to do. Get familiar with boiling sugar first, how you're working with it, how hot it gets, and your temperature changes before you try and attempt this, because it is a little bit more of an advanced level of sweet making. Having said that, if you want to have a go, feel free to. You can put whatever flavourings in it that you like. Just try and keep the amounts roughly the same. Blueberry is quite a nice one with dried blueberries. Don't use wet fruits if you can help it. But that's all I have for this week. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you soon.